question everything. Even the things that seem successful, like they're continuing to go along fairly well, even with the pandemic, question it all. Don't assume that it's doing well because that is the right way to do it. And to be honest with you, anytime a client says to me, well, this is the way it's always been done, or this is the way we've always done, that is the one statement that I will immediately dig in on. And why have you always done it? How is it working? Why do you think that's the best way to do it? Have you looked at other ways? So I think that everybody now, even the things that are successful and seem to be humming along with no problem, I think you need to tear everything down to the joints essentially at this point.
So I love a good, idea out of the blue like anybody else, but that's a really unreliable way to
and rare
be a repeat innovator, and rare. Yeah. I mean, like lightning doesn't always strike, like even if all the clouds are rolling in, it doesn't always strike. And if you're just waiting for lightning to strike, then you're not in control of the process, and this is part of my business, right? This is how I make a living. Like these things are important to me. They're important to my family. I'm not going to rely on luck and hope as a strategy. And I work with a lot of businesses around the world, helping them evaluate their product sets, helping them figure out how to innovate and how to take things to another level. They can't sit around and hope that somebody gets hit by lightning for all kinds of legal reasons. So really, I think that great creativity can be found if you start with a good process underneath of it.
Now, if you still want to push the envelope and try to remove as many of those fears as possible from your stakeholders, your constituency, I think one thing that I do in all of my messaging is tell people, let me help you. Let us help you in Hacking HR to close the gaps, to get you ready for the future. I never say, oh, you don't want to learn? I mean, too bad for you, man. You're going to be left behind. You're not employable anymore. You are losing your capability to find a job or to be something in the future. I always come from a very positive perspective of, I understand that you may not have these skills or capabilities today. Let me help you with that. Let's together remove the fears, build the skills, and get ourselves ready for that future that we can trailblaze others towards. So that's the way I see it.
And you're right. I always look at the landscape like that. All right, if there's a bunch of people doing the same thing, and they might be just as good as me. Of course, we all can look in the mirror and think we're the best and all the positive affirmations, but right, what about somebody else who's not you? Right? Why would they believe you're different from anybody else when they have all these choices? How do you keep yourself from being commoditized? So I always would ask myself, what can I do that other people are not going to do? What can I say about myself that not just hyperbole, is not just puffery, like a used car salesman telling you how great my car is? What's something I can say that you can't deny that it's actually true, that separates me from anybody else out there? So for me, when I first started creating content, I said, all right, what can I do? Somebody else starts making basketball videos, they can just take my spot. So what can make me different? I said, all right, I go to the gym every day, so why don't I put out a video every day? All right, nobody's gonna beat me at that. So that's what I started doing. When I even started my podcast, I have a solo podcast. It comes out every single day. Like nobody's gonna beat me at putting it out every day. You might have better content, arguably, but you're not gonna put it out every day like I'm putting it out every day. So I always try to figure out what can I say that they're not saying. And really, the great thing about the world that we have now, Tamara, is you can be an individual. You don't have to edit yourself to fit into anybody's box. You can be exactly who you are.
Because I went to bed one night going, you know what? My ship has sailed. I waited 10 years on this idea that I had, and I waited too long. And maybe my time has passed. And I would wake up the next morning and I would have even more ideas. And I would go, the ship is still in the harbor. The ship is still in the harbor. If I can minimize the risk, I said, I feel so strongly that we can this will be big. This will be so successful. And he wasn't totally on board, but he kept saying, okay, I know you can make this work, but I need to know that there's some data behind it. And so we did a lot of due diligence. I mean, I joined Global Workspace Association, which is another thing that I knew nothing about, but they had all kinds of reports and data, and we had all kinds of things. So yeah, you can't just dive in when it's high risk. You have to do your due diligence, but at the same time, learn as much as you can. We held meetups with people that we were trying to attract, before we even started construction so that we could start gathering their input and getting their buy-in. And then when we were drywalling this place, we had a big night where people came and spray painted all over the walls and wrote stuff on the walls. And we told them to tag where their office was going to be. So we were pre-selling before we even had offices. So my thing was get people to take them on a journey with me as we were doing this, and they're more likely to, actually be there with you when you open. And it worked.